What is good, everybody? AHS Rules back again with another video. We're here for another Ring of Honor TV review, episode number 87. An extremely important ROH TV review here. I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all now, because y'all can see in the title of the video that something important in ROH has happened via the ladder war that happened this past week on Dynamite. I have a lot of thoughts and opinions on the ladder war match. I'm not going to spoil anything. If you don't know, I'd be very surprised. So I'm going to save all my thoughts for that at the end of the video because it can go into a tangent. So if you're here for the review, I'm going to start that now. Thoughts on the ladder war at the end of the video because there's a lot to be said. So, the 87th episode of Ring of Honor Wrestling kicks off with the Gates of Agony versus the Infantry. Bravo and Khan start the match off. The Gates have the advantage early. It's also, let me backtrack a little bit. The Gates of Agony are kind of in this weird lingo period where Brian Cage, who all three of them were known as the Cage of Agony, formerly the Mogul Embassy. I don't know if they're still a group or not, because Brian Cage has joined the Don Callis family. There's been no mention of these two joining the Don Callis family. It was weird that Cage is in the main event match, and there's like no mention of like all three together. So the guys back there are kind of in this weird lingo period, and the Infantry are in this weird period where they're on a losing streak, and it is affecting, kind of both, their in-ring performances. But this match starts off with Bravo and Khan. The Gates get the advantage once Toa tags in. The Infantry show a bit of a different side of them as they attack Khan while the referee's back is turned. They couldn't do the same to Toa, who hits both of them with a body slam at the same time. Dean thinks that he has taken Khan off of the apron to not get a tag, but the tag still happens and does not stop them, the Infantry, from losing to the Gates of Agony once the Gates of Agony hit the Gates of Agony. Said it 3 times in like 10 seconds. Next, from CMLL, Reina Isis versus Viva Van. Back and forth starts with a Colin Forth elbow tie-up. Isis lands a double knees to the back of Van in the corner. Van lands a spinning kick that is followed by a surfboard submission. Isis rolls around the ring for several times, avoiding Van, and eventually jumps up into the second rope onto the outside to hit a dive. Once back of the ring, both exchange roll-ups. Van gets trapped into the ropes, and this sets up Isis to land a leg drop to win the matchup. This was a good matchup. Now, a return. That return being of Layla Hirsch, who we have not seen since Death Before Dishonor in the very good, I almost said very good, the great Lights Out match. No, it was a Texas Death match. It was extremely weird because they happened like back to back, so I get confused which happened first. Regardless, Layla Hirsch defeated Diamante in a great match at Death Before Dishonor and got injured during the match, dislocating her shoulder. But she says that she is good now and is looking to regain momentum, become a champion in Ring of Honor. Next, we have Rocky Romero versus Brandon Cutler, and Rocky Romero is accompanied by the Stockton Kings mascot, who even had his own championship belt. Cutler says that he sees a cowardly lion in the ring and a mascot, so the lion would have to be Romero. Cutler tries to do his Code of Honor trick, but it does not work this time around. Cutler then attacks after a back elbow and hits a dab elbow. Romero bounces back after hitting a dive to the outside, and once back in the ring, lands forever clotheslines and wins the match with a Shiragoye. As now, we have Lee Johnson and EJ Ndoku versus Brett Hawkins and Gia Jewel. Johnson and Ndoku. Ndoku saved Johnson from an attack months ago, and the pair have been training together since, but have not competed in an ROH ring until now together. There's no Code of Honor as Johnson and Hawkins start with some amateur wrestling. Jewel has a hard time landing anything on Ndoku when they are both tagged in. Matter of fact, Hawkins has a hard time landing anything on Ndoku as well. And surprisingly, Ndoku has a hard time landing anything on Hawkins because he's punching Jewel, and then he goes to punch Hawkins, and he, like, rolls out of the way, so it kind of looked like Ndoku, like, came close to hitting him and didn't, and then Ndoku at least acknowledged, like, hey, I didn't hit you while you were rolling out the way, type of thing. But Ndoku and Johnson win the match with a spine buster into a neck breaker combo. It kind of looked Sky High-esque spine buster by Ndoku, so good job with the elevation here. As now we got to switch. We have a blue pin. We've been using this blue pin. We use this blue pin for the first time in this review. But if you've been watching the past month or so, when we go to the retro match of the week, we switch to the special red pin. So for the next matchup, it is our throwback match of the week. It is a very fitting throwback match of the week, as is the women's title match from Final Battle 2022, Mercedes Martinez versus Athena. Spoiler alert, this is when Athena's championship title reign began. We start the match off with Martinez landing a big forearm, and this leads to the two exchanging forearms. Martinez applies an STF that Athena fights out of and hits a Meteora afterwards. Athena lands a big powerbomb after the two are battling on the top rope. Martinez's brainbuster gets a 2 count. Athena lands a backdrop on the apron, and then Martinez lands an Anarchy suplex on the outside, with Athena getting back in the ring at the count of 9. Now this so weird because obviously historically in Ring of Honor they have a 20 count. Ian Riccaboni, anytime there's a count on the outside and it gets to 9 and then the competitor jumps in the ring, he says, hey, in ROH it's a 20 count. That being said, and the reason I am making a big deal about it, I don't think the wrestlers know that. I legitimately don't think the wrestlers know that, because in this era of ROH, we've never came close to a 20 count. It's always a 9 count and they jump back in at 10. Even 2 years ago, it's the case. 2 years later, it's still the case. Martinez tries to apply the Brass City Sleeper, but Athena bites her way out. The turnbuckle pad is then removed, going flying into the crowd. The crowd even starts chanting, throw it back. And then once it actually is taken away, the crowd boos. But going back into what is happening in the ring, the important note is that the turnbuckle is exposed, with Athena landing a big drop kick that sends Martinez flying into the turnbuckle and follows it up with an O-face to start off this historical championship title reign that is almost at over 700 days. The single longest title reign in Ring of Honor history, and that was kind of the case a month ago. And I question why there wasn't a celebration or a big deal about it then. But slowly but surely, the celebration is being planned. And tonight, right now, it is finally Athena's championship celebration. We're introduced by Billy Starks, who's in the ring. There are balloons, a table, and minion security. I'm trying to think what exactly minion security will do. We also have confetti that the minion security pop off once Athena and Luxionaire enter into the ring. And Luxionaire says, hey, they can dance. And these minion security start dancing, and Athena hates it and sends them on their way. Athena is pissed off at the whole celebration. There's no Ja Rule. Her parents did not want to show up because her mother scheduled a procedure or a surgery and is not showing up to this. And that the women's division in Ring of Honor did not show up, even after Athena has been carrying the women's division and them in matchups for the past 2 years. And Athena thinks this whole thing sucks and blames Billy Starks. And Billy was not happy about this, was not happy at the beginning of this when she did the introduction, and thinks that Billy is jealous of her. And Billy, you know, if you're about to get in an argument with somebody, the best thing to do is probably most of the time just to walk away. Billy says she's done. She ain't dealing with this. She walks away. Lexi tries to de-escalate the situation with probably the best thing that happened on this episode of ROH, presenting a special championship that has Athena on it, that is shaped like the ROH Women's Championship. And guess what? It spins. I know a lot of people hate spinning championships, but I don't think I have that. I don't think I have a problem with them anymore. You know, it is what it is. Once the title starts spinning, Abaddon's music plays. Lexi goes hiding under the ring while Athena is prepared. She's ready to fight. Most of the time when she hears Abaddon's music, she ain't with it. This time she's ready to fight. Lexi goes under the ring. Abaddon's music stops playing. Athena goes to grab Lexi, and it's Abaddon, who then attacks Athena, goes back in the ring, and that cake that I've never mentioned until now, there was a cake. It did not look that good, and I'm glad that y'all did not want a piece because it all went to Athena and in Athena's face as this championship celebration comes to a close. If I was to guesstimate, which I've been guessing for the past month, and I don't know anything yet, I'm just guessing. I imagine we get Athena versus Abaddon on next week's ROH in a Halloween-themed fight, because it is a bit of a meme that every Halloween, Abaddon... I'm not going to say every Halloween, but there's at least been 2 instances where there's a Halloween-themed match or a Halloween-themed episode of AEW, and it involves Abaddon being in that match. In 2021, it was Britt Baker. Last year, it was against Hikaru Shida. The main reason I keep saying it's not every year because I have no memory of 2022. And I've been predicting this for the past month. And I even went back and looked. This whole thing started on episode 77 of ROH. We're 10 episodes ago. This match could have happened. You know, you don't have to rush things always, but I know people get pissed that it's like a meme and a joke that it has to be Halloween and Abaddon gets the match. So, if that match doesn't happen, I would be wrong. And I would be flabbergasted by it. But Athena at least has a reason to fight Abaddon now. As now we get to our last matchup on this episode of ROH. For the TV title, Brian Cage versus Komander, who earned this title shot on last week's episode of ROH. It is very weird because at Battle of the Belts, Brian Cage competed in a match. But it was a freaking tag team match. Why? A non-title tag team match. Why at Battle of the Belts we're having non-title matches? I don't know. That's a whole discussion for another freaking video. But we get Cage versus Komander, which was the best match of the night. Cage lands a big slam after Komander attempts a dive. This starts off a dominant performance, even tossing Komander to the outside. Komander fights back with a Hurricane Rana off of the top rope and a dive to the outside. He then hits a corkscrew 450 that only gets a 1 count, and then he goes back up to the top rope to hit his rope walk shooting star that gets a 2 count. Cage follows this up with a series of power bombs and an F5 that sends Komander flying, ending the matchup and this episode of ROH. I enjoyed this main event. The championship celebration was an important moment and been building up for weeks and months. So check out the last 25 minutes of this episode. And I won't lie, this episode did fly by, so I can't really complain about that. As now, I need to get the pin out. Because this is an important moment in the ROH TV review series. If you read the title, and if you've been watching, let's talk about this ladder war. Mark Briscoe is no longer our Ring of Honor World Champion. Our Ring of Honor World Champion is Chris Jericho. I feel that Mark Briscoe carried this match. He did almost all of the dangerous spots in this match. Big Bill helped Chris Jericho's ass climb the ladder to grab the championship, and Tomohiro Ishii and Rocky Romero stood on the stage. I know in wrestling we're supposed to be stupid and suspend our disbelief sometime, but why Tomohiro Ishii was there and is a member of the conglomeration and did not come out to stop Big Bill from helping Jericho win, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Moral of the story, Chris Jericho is back as our Ring of Honor World Champion, which I have said several times I did not want to see. Now, I don't know what all I will say during the course of this rant/thought piece, so I apologize in advance. I will say, and I've been saying this for a while, I like Chris Jericho. I appreciate what Chris Jericho has done in wrestling, but for the past 2+ years, he has sucked. And the main contributing factor in that is ending up in storylines and matchups that just don't end, and storylines that just don't end. Him and Hook feuded for half of this year, and it sucked. Granted, I hope on everything that this does not end up going on for a whole year. I will admit, an interesting part of this right now is I don't know what direction this is going. I have a lot of thoughts and theories that I'm going to share some right now. So, backtracking though, I've appreciated what Chris Jericho has done in wrestling, but ever since I've done this channel and talked about wrestling on this channel, I come off as a Chris Jericho hater, and at this moment, I am, because I did not want to see him be Ring of Honor World Champion again. And I don't know many people that did. If you did, let me know. Let me know. Because like I said, I don't know many people that did. There's got to be some out there, because it happened, obviously. So, I will say this. In this Honor Club era, we've had 3 Ring of Honor World Champions. Claudio Castagnoli, Eddie Kingston, and Mark Briscoe. And it's kind of weird because in the beginning, Claudio was appearing consistently. And then once Collision came around, he stopped appearing. Which this is when they started taping ROH after Collision strictly. And then at some points they started, etc. Claudio appeared. Eddie appeared and competed a lot until they added the Continental Championship. Which I don't know many people that clamor and wanted that championship. That kind of ended Eddie appearing a lot more on ROH. And then he stopped appearing because he got injured. So that's fine and dandy. And he obviously lost the championship. And Mark Briscoe, I've counted, competed 7 times on ROH since being Ring of Honor World Champion. I was about to say another number that I knew was a lie. I'm not going to say I would be shocked if Chris Jericho appears and competes or at least does something on ROH TV. But I'm not expecting it. And a lot of people were celebrating this because they don't want to see him on AEW TV. They're like, yes, he's going to go to ROH. Y'all probably wrong. If I was to guess, y'all are probably wrong. So that was a literal side tangent. Backing up, this is a whole theory. This is a whole theory that is mainly responsible from talking heads in the internet wrestling community and whatnot. And I'm going back in time. 2 years ago, when Chris Jericho was Ring of Honor champion for the first time, I've also been on record saying I didn't hate that title reign. It had its good moments, like him bleeding after being chopped to death from Ishii, and Bandito's AEW debut / Ring of Honor return was during that title reign. It had a lot of bad, which the main gripe I had with that title reign is that he faced Bryan Danielson several times. Danielson talked so much about wanting to be Ring of Honor World Champion again, and it just didn't happen, and it felt like a slap in the face several times over. Also, kind of ruined Daniel Garcia for a lot of people because he joined back with Chris Jericho, and that was involved in a Danielson match. Obviously, Garcia has prevailed since then, but a very down time in AEW / ROH. And obviously, getting with the bad, Chris Jericho, Colt Cabana. Do y'all remember that? Regardless, going back to 2 years ago, the initial title reign and the whole idea that has been presented by some of the IWC was that it happened to land ROH a TV deal, and they put the championship on Chris Jericho because he's a big name and a presentable name, and the main reason that AEW got its initial title TV spot was because of Chris Jericho. Is all that true? I don't know. Moral of the story, it failed because it's been for 2 years on Honor Club. Now that AEW has secured a TV deal once again, there's a chance that they're trying to do this whole thing over again. And so a lot of people think that Jericho's back as champion to try this again. Have Jericho, and I'm saying this in quotations, a presentable name, be champion, and to get ROH a TV deal. Which, the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Jericho, and if you remember, I've said Jericho the past 2 years has sucked. I don't understand why trying this again after Jericho has, the stock in Jericho, the rating in Jericho has just drastically gone down. I don't expect anything to change with it. Another theory. Now, the other thing is that I don't know who the hell is going to take this title off of Jericho. And this, again, I'm going to keep referencing the IWC because I've tried to accumulate as much opinions from other people and whatnot. Most of it was saying ROH is dead, ROH sucks, and I understand. Some of it was saying, well, he's just not going to hold the title for long. Maybe it ends at Final Battle. I would hope it ends before Final Battle, but we'll wait and see. But Final Battle is the highlighted, like, please. I don't know who the hell's going to take this title off of Jericho. That is like a genuine thing. There's 3 options. Mark Briscoe in a tiebreaker match, and he reclaims the championship, which I would be happy with, but I'm bothered by it because it's literally what happened in the last Jericho title reign with Claudio. He beat Claudio, held the title that he didn't really need to hold or shouldn't have held, and then Claudio just beat him for it again. Also, it's what happened with the freaking Hook FTW title reign. That one went on for way longer and was way worse. But that would be the 3rd time that this freaking happened. The second option is he makes another star. He makes a star. He's made so many stars. Look at Action Andretti. He's a big deal because he beat Chris Jericho. Wink, wink. But when I look at it like that, there ain't nobody that competes on ROH consistently ready to hold for the freaking ROH World Championship. If you just want my opinion, I've watched 87 straight weeks. There ain't nobody ready for this championship. Or anybody like Shane Taylor is probably, like, if you were to ask me, like, who's somebody that consistently competes on ROH that deserves a title reign, I would say Shane Taylor. Is Shane Taylor beating Chris Jericho? Probably not. And it, like, storyline-wise, probably doesn't make sense. So, him establishing a star and putting someone new over, it sounds good on paper, but it's like, you gotta find somebody to do it. Or, I'm not waiting long enough for them to freaking do that. They've had time to do it, and they've done a terrible job with it. And option 3 is what I hope happens, but it's the least logical one to happen. And oh yeah, very similar to that 2022 title reign, Samoa Joe. Joe, save us. Please, Joe, save us. I was saying that about Danielson. He faced Jericho at least twice. I know it's like I keep putting it over and over again. It was at least twice. Because one of the matchups was the one that Daniel Garcia interfered and cost Danielson. The other matchup was a 4-way that had Claudio and Sammy involved. And there is a slight chance I thought Sammy was going to win that match. Crazy that 2 years later, Sammy is a freaking champion in ROH. Regardless, I wanted Danielson to win because he's an established name. And he is ROH. Same thing here. Samoa Joe is ROH to a lot of people. He has the greatest ROH title reign to a lot of people. You can argue with Danielson and Nigel, which, if I was just throwing balls to the wall and throwing ideas to the wall, I would love it to be Nigel. Like, at least give Nigel a chance, maybe. Just throwing ideas out there. But at least with saying Joe, there's a connection to Joe and Jericho because Jericho injured Joe and took Joe off of TV, and he could come save the day for ROH because in ROH, back in the day, long time ago, even before I was watching ROH, I was like 4 or 5 years old, he was the one carrying ROH and saving the day for him then. And so he can come and save us now. But that's just me hoping. Like I was hoping Danielson ended that title reign 2 years ago. So, moral of the story. Extremely disappointed that Jericho is Ring of Honor World Champion. I have a lot of things to share with it. I've shared a great majority of it. I just feel it shouldn't have happened. I've said that for the past month, and here we are now having to go through it. I do appreciate Jericho and hope that he does well with this title reign, but from seeing what we've seen the past number of years, and I could even mainly say months, I doubt it. Also, I know I was going to, like I said, I know I'm forgetting things. I hate that, like, this Jericho and Mark Briscoe storyline was like, hey, Mark, you're not Jay. Like, I hated that they Jericho keep mentioning Jay Briscoe in this storyline just to get heat and to make us, like, more interested. It made me less interested in the match because I just think it's a dickhead asshole thing that it didn't need. We didn't need the whole rivalry and match to begin with. And I just hated that it was supposed to be like a dig and make you want to watch the match. It made me want to watch it less. So that also has me even more mad at Jericho. Backtracking. Mad that Jericho's champion. Hoping he does well in this title reign, or it doesn't last long. There is a concern on what the hell will happen with this title reign. To a lot of people, this is a stopping point for AEW, for ROH and AEW. A lot of people that I have seen and like looked out and sought out are pissed by it. I am as well. But I've been here for 87 straight freaking weeks reviewing ROH. And I'm going to continue. Also, by the way, this was a very short recap on this week's episode. Will Jericho be here on next week's episode? Will even still be Ring of Honor? We can hope that he loses this title by this time next week. We will have to wait and see there. So, like I said, there's a lot that I could have got off my chest with this. I got the main thing out. I don't want to see this title reign happen. A lot of people don't want to see this title reign happen. It's happening more than likely regardless. We need a hero. We need a savior. We need to see what happens next. So, I will be here. This was a long ROH TV review, mainly due to this. Hopefully, you enjoyed all of this and you're staying safe. You liked the video. Leave a comment on your thoughts on the whole thing. I do appreciate y'all for watching all of this. I'm out, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.